You are welcome to the platform. My name is Eleja da Silva. I'm the anchor for this program. The next 30 minutes to 1 hour, I'll be taking you through our guests. The platform treats issues on economy, commerce, politics, religion, international relations and diplomacy, and all issues about human endeavor. With me on the program today is...
Good morning. My name is Eleja, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I'm a private practitioner with my head office in Eleja here. I also have a presence in Abuja.
As a Nigerian, what can you say about the state of the nation?
Regrettably, the state of the Nigerian nation today gives room for concern. When you want to talk about the economy, things are really nosedived. The carrying capacity of the naira, which is our currency, has really plummeted, and this has affected in a very negative way the living condition of Nigerians. Sadly, and in a manner of defying established economic principles, where we were taught that when you talk of inflation, there will be so much money chasing fewer goods. The Nigerian situation is very peculiar. Price has been skyrocketing, yet there is scarcity of money. So it's a very perilous situation. You see more beggars around now. People who ordinarily are people of principles, people who are very reserved, who have been compelled by the economic situation in the country to beg to make ends meet. Of course, even though not a recent development, unemployment has also been on the increase. The state of the nation generally, economically speaking, is not something that is encouraging. If you look at it from the dimension of power, you discover that the problem that has been with us is still there. And without power, there is hardly any meaningful development that will take place. In most places in the country experience less than 10 hours of power supply in a day. In fact, in a good number of places, for weeks, for months, they've been in darkness. The state of our infrastructures also need attention. If you drive by road now, you discover that a lot has to be done. Security-wise too, we are faced with the challenges of kidnapping, challenges of robbery, and other social vices. In fairness, these problems are not a creation of the current government, but it will appear that in the past few months, especially the economic challenges have really deteriorated. In terms of security, it will appear the current government is doing what it could, and in my own personal assessment, I think things are getting better in that respect, even though much still needs to be done.
All right. It is being said that the actual target of the petrol price is 1,200. If this is a reality, what do you think will come of Nigerians, the common people, when that materializes?
Well, I want to take that as a product of the rumor mill, because even the government spokesperson have come out to say that there is no iota of truth in that. But my honest advice is that government should do everything that is possible to ensure that the fuel of petroleum product does not get to that level. Because as it is now, many paid employees are having challenges surviving. You can think of somebody who is on a salary of about 120, 130,000 naira in a month, which you, on a good day, want to consider something that is average and probably reasonable, having to fuel his car, spending an average of 20,000 naira a week to run the car, of course, to beat some other challenges. What is more, any increment or further increase in the price of petrol will have ripple effect on so many other things, because transportation is something that cut across. Farmers will have to bring their produce to town to sell. There must be movement from one place to the other. So I will advise seriously against it, because it will further compound the precarious situation of Nigerians.
All right. Nigerians are gradually losing confidence in the judicial system. Maybe it is the way judgments are being delivered. Could it be an issue of perception on the side of the people, or technicality on the side of the judiciary?
Quite honestly, and as a stakeholder in the justice sector of this country, I will say that the problem is more of perception than that of reality. If you look at it critically, given the challenges, multivarious challenges that are confronting the nation judiciary, you want to commend them for their effort so far. Nigeria is one of the very few countries where judges have to work under very excruciating circumstances, where judges have to record in longhand, where judges will have to contend with an endless causes list, having to handle up to 20, 24 cases in a day. It's one of the few places where court sittings are conducted in longhand, where you have to contend with problem of power, where you have to contend with lack of other basic necessities. You can imagine somebody having to work 7-8 hours at a stretch, and there is no power, there is no functioning air conditioner, the courtroom atmosphere is not so good. So given the circumstances in which we have found ourselves, I want to believe that the Nigerian judiciary is doing its best and has really done considerably well. The judiciary, I must say, is the Nigerian judiciary is an extension of the Nigerian setting or state. One cannot say that everything is perfect. With every human setting, you see a bit of flaws and shortcomings, but it has not risen to the level that somebody want to say, oh, I've lost confidence in judiciary. Thank God for judiciary. If there is no judiciary, situations will have further degenerated in this country. Look at the issue of people wanting to impeach a governor. The judiciary will have to come in. When we talk of fundamental rights of citizens, the judiciary will have to come in. And even the almighty Labour and the rest of us, the judiciary is our last hope. Like I said, there is always room for improvement in every human endeavor. But the issue of Nigeria, the judiciary being not up and running is more of a misconception, rather than. You see, one lingering issue has always been that of corruption. This one will allege, the judiciary is corrupt, this and this. But when they are called upon to come and substantiate these allegations, you find them disappearing. And the average Nigerian, once the outcome of a litigation does not go the way he envisages, the judiciary must have been compromised. Again, don't forget that you can't talk about justice without the law. In every civilized country in the world, law is an integral part of justice. You can't be talking of law in vacuum. You have to situate it against the established rules and norms. If that is done, you'll be able to appreciate it better. For example, there are instances when allegations will be like, oh, so person is corrupt, he stole this amount, he did this there, yet the judiciary allow him to walk free. The judiciary will have to act on the evidence that has been placed before it. And where there is want of evidence, the judiciary cannot rely on newspaper publications and social media stuff to come to a conclusion. The same thing in electoral matters. It's going to be said, oh, so person rigged, this happened, that happened. When the avenue is created, or when an avenue is created for such allegations to be substantiated, we discover that the requisite evidence is just not there. And you see, it is not in the interest of anybody to write off our judiciary. The moment that is done, what you are seeing is that the outside world should be wary in coming here to invest. They should be wary in coming here for tourism. They should be wary in dealing with us as a nation. So if there are genuine issues, appropriate venue or opportunities have been created. You have the Nigeria National Judicial Council. If you feel that any judge has misconducted himself, there is opportunity to write to that body. And of course, if you believe that the issue has to do with that of corruption, the ICPC is there, the EFCC is there. I think they are willing and prepared to do their work.
All right, and just on the issue of election petition just mentioned, do you think if there are issues raised over election matters, do you think it is ideal for the courts to make somebody a governor rather than send back to the electoral system for fresh conduct of elections?
Well, you see, the court itself is a creation of law. Conduct of proceedings before election tribunal and indeed the regular court, they are also regulated by law. The court can only act within the precinct of the law. For as long as there are allowances in the law, specifically the Electoral Act, for tribunal to remove one person and declare another person as the winner, there is nothing odd or improper in the tribunal doing that. And if you follow, you will see that in a number of cases, even as laymen, it had been graphically demonstrated that, look, see, those are appropriate things to be made. For example, only recently in Kogi State, we all heard about a particular senatorial dispute. And we followed what even happened before the D-Day. And we saw what happened on the day of election. And it was very clear that certain things were not in order. So I think it will have been an abdication of responsibility on the part of the judiciary to say, oh, go back, go and conduct another election at huge cost to the taxpayer, thereby also overstretching the capacities of our security apparatus. So I think it is good, it is ideal. I must also seize the opportunity to make a clarification. You see, the world over, the law leans in favor of the result of election as declared by the electoral body. That is what is called presumption of regularity. Therefore, for anybody to upturn that, you have to do a bit of work. And it's a global phenomenon. So before you come and upturn it, you have to produce a solid evidence to show that, oh, the electoral body had not been fair in declaring or returning this person as the winner. And deliberately too, the law has put in place so many things to checkmate that, so that what is presumed to have been done by the majority is not just easily overturned. That is the background idea behind presumption of regularity. Otherwise, you just discover that the court assumes the function of the electorate. The electorate will do something and the court will say 60-70% of the cases. But certain things have been put in place to ensure that unless you have glaring cases, then there is no point for the tribunal or court to set aside the outcome of an election.
Okay, so on the general note, if you have to assess INEC vis-a-vis the last 2023 election, what score line will you give them?
Well, if I were to assess INEC, all said, I will give them 65 to 70%. I will give them pass marks, 65-70%. I was opportune to take part in a number of election petitions, and I found that in most instances, the allegations made about non-compliance, about electoral malpractices were not real. They were not substantiated. In fact, in a few instances, I found that there was no justification factually or legally for certain election petitions to be filed. You can imagine a situation whereby somebody came a distant third in an election petition, and his total score is less than 20% of the vote from the constituency. He came third. Even the second person who polled about 30-35% did not deem it fit to go to the tribunal. So, but you know, Nigerians, especially politicians, they believe that a miracle will happen along the line, and many of them are bad losers, and that's why you have the volume of election petitions that we experience. This is not to say that INEC is perfect. No, INEC is not perfect. It's just a Nigerian institution. There are areas where they could improve. For example, in the use of, in the deployment of technology, the whole essence of the huge investment is to ensure that these things are put into use. In a situation whereby you now have these things in place and you still fail to take full advantage, it's not really the best. Even though they have challenges, what I found along the line is that many of the ad hoc staff are not familiar with the procedure. It's either they are not properly trained, or they just fail to tag along. Because even in simple computation of figures in electoral result forms, you see that, and at times, not for any sinister motive, but just because of incompetence. You know, these people are recruited along the line. Some are HND holders, some are degree holders, and you know what the situation is with the quality of education in the country today. So maybe INEC next time should devote more time to training of their ad hoc staff, because that is the bottom of the pyramid, that is the foundation. Once they are able to take care of that area properly, I believe that it's likely to impact on the number of election petitions that will go before the tribunals.
Hi everyone, I would love to urge you all to watch Newsbeam TV. It's educative, innovative, informative, and entertaining. Thank you very much.
Coming to the role of we the adults as role model to upcoming youths. Some people argue that the adults have not been good role models to youths. That's why there's youth restlessness, issue of Yahoo boys and co. What's your take on this side?
Quite honestly, my take is that we should go back to the basic, which is the family. If the family is in order, the society is in order. But what we realize nowadays is that many family heads are filling their roles as family heads. Many elders are filling their roles as elders. Before now, they say charity begins at home, but nowadays that will appear to have been distorted. In a situation whereby a father is failing to provide responsible leadership at home, what do you expect other members of the family to do? So we have to go back. Head of family should play their role appropriately from that small unit. Then once that is done, is likely to impact on the larger society. Of course, the religious institutions too, they have their roles to play. Nowadays, it appears that whoever is able to donate more is celebrated. Civil servants whose salaries and emoluments are known will go to mosque, they will go to churches, they will go to religious organizations, and they will make very handsome donation, more than they could earn through the entirety of their service life. And they are welcome. Nobody is asking any question. They are honored with chieftaincies and honors in the mosque, in the church. It wasn't like this before. Religious institutions used to play the role of the conscience of the nation at some point in the past, but now they have neglected that. That is why you see multiplicity of churches, multiplicity of mosques and groups and organizations. What has come out of it? You see people very early going to the mosque, going to church, sleeping over and the rest of it. But it has not translated because those religious institutions have failed to play their role appropriately. Of course, we worship money too much. Unlike before, nowadays when children, when they go out, they bring money back, or they come with things that apparently are far beyond their means. The parents are not worried. The society is not worried. Once people play their role properly, of course, we will overcome this problem. And let me tell you that about the greatest challenge that we are facing in this country is that of corruption. If we're able to address the issue of corruption, of course, we will get it. So parents, and of course it starts even from the home. You see some head of family not playing their roles properly. It's a kind of corruption. People not paying attention to the movement of their children. So we should go back to the basic. The head of family should see themselves as having roles to play. They should ask questions. They should follow the progress of their children and wards. They should monitor them. They should support them. Importantly, they should lead by example. Because if as the head of family you do not lead by example, for example, you are a civil servant or you are a salary earner, and your salary is 120,000 naira in a month, and you are coming home with a car of 5 million naira, 6 million naira, what example are you setting for your children? You are buying a property 120 million, 200 million, you keep traveling up and down, and this your members of the family, they know your source of income. Not to talk of those elders who even chide those innocent youths. Or look at Susu person, did you not graduate together? Do you know what he's doing for his family? Do you know that he has done this, he has done that? So we have to go back to the basics. We have to have a kind of reorientation, a rebirth. Our thinking system must change. There must be a re-engineering like it used to be before. When we see evil, we must condemn evil. When we see evil, we must repel it. When we see evil, we must resent it. We must demonstrate that, we must show that we resent it by not just associating with anybody who has gotten some wealth or somebody who is living above his means. Regrettably, every one of us has a role to play. Because if I look at myself critically, if you look at yourself, if everyone looks at themselves critically, you discover that somebody who is close to you falls into this category. And have I played my role well in sowing resentment for such a conduct? Have you played your role well? If we are able to do it, people will know that it is unattractive to go that way, and probably things will get better.
All right. Would you suggest a legislation to curb all these acts? Maybe parents being held responsible for the acts of their children and vice versa?
Well, unfortunately, I do not think that the problem is that of lack of legislation. We have enough legislation to take care of our situation. It will interest you to know, for example, that under the EFCC Act, a person need not be caught stealing before he could be invited for questioning. Once anybody has reasons to believe that XYZ is living beyond his means, so the body shifts onto him to come and justify his source of income. Once you have that kind of law in place, for goodness sake, what better this thing do you require to go into action? And we see this every now and then. Those days, people used to disguise their heel gotten wet. But nowadays, you see people driving around in exotic cars, living in mansions, despite their very limited sources of income. So maybe the law enforcement agencies will have to do more. Now, coming back to your question as to whether people should be made we call it vicarious liability. People should be held vicariously liable for the conduct of their destiny. It is not going to be fair. It's going to breed injustice. It's like trying to fuse two personalities into one. Many a times, those parents will be innocent. They may not even know what goes on around. Some of them will not even know to what extent their children, wards, or relations or wives are involved in the criminality and illegal conduct. So if you now want to introduce strict liability, because your son has done this, for example, your son has committed rape, then you must be held accountable. Or your brother or your wife, who is an accountant somewhere, has misconducted himself in his place of work. You have not benefited in it. You have not counseled the illegality to be conducted. You have not benefited in any way. Yet you are to be made accountable. Even the Almighty does not do that. A man will be responsible for his own conduct. For the good things that he has done, he will benefit from it. And for what he has done improperly too, he will be held accountable for it. So I will never support that kind of legislation because it has a tendency of occasion injustice on others.
Okay. I'm talking in terms of, let's say for example, someone whose source of income is not well established, making huge donation to a church,
yes,
or to a mosque.
Yes.
Can the church or mosque or a society to which such donations are made be held accountable?
Of course, yes. If they have reasons to believe that such monies are from illicit sources. It's like a case of a receiver. Somebody has gone, he has stolen. He has brought the stolen words to you, and you have received it. There is no law which says that you could not be held accountable. The first question will be, on what basis are you collecting this kind of huge money? Maybe by way of donation or by way of support. If it's a religious obligation. Of course, if it's a
religious obligation,
you have a duty to you are presumed to know, or you are reasonably expected to know. For example, every reasonable or an average Nigerian should have an idea of the emolument of a civil servant. For example, even a director, whether at the federal level or the state level, I'm told does not earn up to ₦1 million in a month. If a director of a parastatal is now coming and is making a donation of 120 million naira to the mosque or to the church, of course questions will be asked. And I think it's again because we have not reached where we should be. Nothing stops the agencies, especially the anti-corruption agencies, from investigating the activities of these religious institutions. But you know, in Nigeria, if as a Muslim I'm opportune to be in charge of such a body, and I ask question, Mr. XY said has done this, has done that, and I say, investigate the affairs of so and so body, questions will be raised, because he's a Muslim he has done, and vice versa. And that is part of the problem. So the law is there, is in place, and you see, Nigerians don't put it beyond them. They could even use this religious institution to launder their money. They could say, we are donating this. Somewhere along the line, it comes back to take part of it. So I think it's an area that the law enforcement agencies will also have to consider seriously. If you take money, you should have reasons or reasonable grounds to believe that this money I am taking is from yes, it's from illegitimate source. If I'm giving you something that is beyond me, of course you should ask. You are coming to pay tithe. What is your total income? What are you paying as tithe? But most of the times people will play ostrich. What is my own district? He has brought the money. Why should I ask? People are not asking because the law has not been fully activated. If the law had been fully activated, of course people will be asking questions.
Okay, today you are an accomplished lawyer. If you look back at where you started from till date, was it your intention to become a lawyer?
Well, I want to thank the Almighty for the grace that I've enjoyed. He's been with me, he's been supportive, he has been guiding me. So I want to thank him, and I even pray for more grace from him. Well, initially when I set out, I didn't, my intention was not to be a lawyer. I was a very good student of history as a secondary school student. In fact, I was the best student in history in my secondary school. And my intention was to read history as a course and probably become a professor of history or something. But I got counseled in good time that if I venture into that line, I most probably will end up in the classroom, and that my economic situation may not be as one would expect in any decent society. So I then quickly made up my mind, and I had a rejig of my thoughts career-wise. Then the issue of law cropped up, but there was this other obstacle which I had to confront or surmount. I'm from a predominantly Muslim environment in Ilorin here, and my late father, may the Almighty be pleased with his soul, was of the opinion, which was a common belief at that time, that lawyers are not made for heaven. At least that if there are 3 lawyers, only one will make heaven, the 2 others will not make it, and that was a popular belief around there at the relevant time.
But is it not true?
So, well, I don't believe so, and I believe that if that is so in the legal profession, I believe so it is in every other profession. You see people who are dishonest civil servants, you see dishonest traders, you see dishonest transporter. So it depends upon the individual. So the initial challenge I had was to convince my late father that I wanted to become a lawyer. The way I started it was to tell him that I was going to read Islamic law, Sharia, which was something that he welcomed. And I tried to do that at the University of Maiduguri in 1987. Somehow it didn't sail through. So the following year, I even got better advice that I could combine both Islamic and common law. And that was the genesis of my journey to Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, where I eventually read law. And of course, thereafter, I was in the law school, I was called to the bar. So initially, my intention was not to become a lawyer, but along the line, I got advised, and to the glory of God, I'm a lawyer today.
You are a very good historian from secondary school. What is the place of history and religion in law?
History and religion in law. Let me tell you that history is something that is relevant to every facet of the human life. If you are talking about education, you need history. What was the situation? What has been the evolution? What have been the various stages before you now arrive at where you are? If you are talking about law, what was the state of law before now? What is the state of law? What should the law be? All these are a matter of history. So history is a very crucial thing. In fact, a person without history is a living dead. So history is really very, very crucial. So history is something that will assist a lawyer in even being able to practice his profession well. For example, you will be a good student of history, not in any formal setting, for you to appreciate the development of law. For example, what was the situation before the coming into being of the ICPC Act? What are those things that were allowed, that were permissible in law? Why is the law the way it is now? The richer you are in history, the more you are able to appreciate the position of the law at different stages, and the more you are able to present your argument before the court, even as a judge. So the more you are able to appreciate certain laws that come before you for interpretation. So history is really a good thing, and it will facilitate your understanding, like I have said. It will also even assist in decision making when you talk of law. Of course, so many things we also have to come in. For example, if you are dealing with traditional history, you are dealing with land matters, you are dealing with chieftaincy matters, history will readily come in as a relevant subject. So religion, well, religion is also plays some role because your religion probably will dictate what you will do and what you will not do. It will also have a way of regulating your conscience to ensure that whatever you do at every time is something that is conscionable, is something that is not reprehensible, is not something that is not condemnable. That's the position of religion. Outside of that, religion has no role. For example, if you are a Christian judge, you are dealing with Muslims before you, it should not really matter, and vice versa. A Muslim will approach a Christian lawyer, for example, to be represented in court. A Christian will approach a Muslim district to be represented in court, especially if you want a quality service. You have Muslim judges, you have Christian judges applying the same law individually, even sitting collectively at the appellate level. So the role of religion in the practice of law, yes, it regulates consent, like I said, but beyond that, you have to apply the law across board.
Okay, trying to filter through your father's perception and notes, whether lawyers go to heaven or not, will it be professionally right if a lawyer is being briefed about a matter, and for him to say, from what you have said, I will be able to take up this matter for you?
Okay, thank you. Now, let me quickly do a bit of a clarification. You see, my father's perspective, which, like I said, represented the perspective of most people of his own age, was predicated on a written tradition of the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is to the fact that there are three categories of judges. Only one of them will make paradise. The two others will not. The one who will make heaven is the one that seeks knowledge. He has knowledge, and he decides based on justice. The second category is the one that decides with ignorance. He will not make paradise. The third one is the one who knows who is not ignorant, but just chose to pervert justice. So those are two categories of judges, and let me say also by extension lawyers who will not make heaven. Well, coming back to your question, as an individual, you have the right to determine the kind of cases that you take. I'm aware of some lawyers in this country who will not take criminal cases, regardless of the amount of money that is involved. There are some whose area of specialization is in criminal law. There are some who will say, oh, I don't want to take divorce or matrimonial matters. There are some who specializes in that. There are some who say, oh, because of element interest, I don't want to go into banking matter because it is forbidden according to the teachings of my religion, and so on and so on. So there is that individual liberty to make a decision as to what to do. So if a brief comes into one's office, you reserve the right to say, oh, for this and this and this, I don't want to take this. In fact, you hold the client even no explanation for rejecting a particular brief. Let me also warn you that people seem to have this impression that those who take criminal cases are not, they are bad individuals, they are this, they are that. It is not always so. Because number one, the defendant or the accused, as is commonly known, is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. And it is not in every situation that an allegation of commission of crime is made against somebody that such a person is guilty. Even from the scriptures, you remember the story of Joseph. There was this false allegation against him. Of course, if you had lawyers like you have nowadays, and a lawyer opted to defend him, some people condemn him. Look at what, there are several instances when people are wrongly accused and they need to be defended. Otherwise, for people who are not trained, somebody is standing there, trial for copy homicide, for example, and is not being represented by a lawyer. In any event, the law has mandated that it should be represented by a lawyer because of the importance attached to the human life. So it is not because a person has chosen to defend an accused person, therefore is himself an accused or is a criminal. No. What one should just do is that even in doing your job, you have to be conscionable. You operate within the precinct of the law. What are the requirements of the law? Don't set out to mislead. Don't set out to promote injustice. Do your work professionally without necessarily compromising your integrity.
All right. In dealing with legal matters as a lawyer, which one comes first? Is it the conscience or the provisions and loopholes that the law can provide?
I believe that both works hand in hand. Your conscience is there, the law is there. At times, if you want to go by the loopholes created by the law, you will end up murdering your conscience. You end up murdering your conscience. If you want to just, you want to do it, oh, the law has allowed for this and this and this and this and this. But again, you can't shut your eyes to what the law has dictated. For example, here you are defending a criminal case, and the prosecution has failed to prove some ingredients of the offenses alleged. And there you are representing a defendant. Will you say because you have conscience, you want to assist the prosecution to fill those missing gaps? No. You rather keep quiet and not do anything to mislead the court. That is the essence that your conscience will take you. So it must be a blend of the two. Otherwise, in the name of conscience, you will be creating problems for your client. I've seen an instance where a lawyer was in court and he was meant to represent a client, but because he had had some things outside of the courtroom, he was trying to practicalize those things. On his own part, he had already convicted his client. Lo and behold, the lawyer was changed, another lawyer took over, and at the end of the day, the defendant was discharged and acquitted. So there must be moderation in the two. Do not be an extremist in any situation.
Okay. There are instances in Nigeria today that people believe that justice is for the rich, and the poor man cannot sue a rich man and win the case. How do you see this?
I do not believe that justice is for the rich. I do not believe so.
How does a poor man get money to hire a competent lawyer?
Well, the assumption is that once you hire a competent lawyer or a senior advocate of Nigeria, you have won your case. But it is not true. It is not in every situation. What a competent lawyer, a senior advocate of Nigeria could do for you, or a professor of law could do for you, is to assist you in presenting your case appropriately. He cannot change the facts. The facts are the facts. So once you master your facts well, and of course, you go to a lawyer, maybe not necessarily the most expensive, but somebody who has good reputation in terms of hard work, in terms of diligence, in terms of conscience, in terms of being organized to prosecute you. Of course, you will get results. And let me also put this one in. The law on its own has made provision for certain organizations to render what is called pro bono services. That is free legal services. You have the Legal Aid Council, for example, at the national level. If you have cases and you feel so concerned about it, and you believe that you cannot hire, or you do not have the fees to hire a lawyer on your own, go there, they will give you lawyers. They have good lawyers there to represent you. The same thing at the state level, for example, in Kwara State, you have the Office of the Public Defender. If you have cases, they have competent lawyers there who could represent you. And equivalent of public defender abound across the country. Virtually all the states now have that in their ministries of justice. So that one is there. Even the Nigeria Bar Association, they have a pro bono section now, where there are competent lawyers who are willing to render legal services. What is more, to become a senior advocate of Nigeria today now, you must have rendered certain number of pro bono services to indigent members of the public. So the window is there. Let people not have the impression that because I'm weak is strong, then I won't be able to get just that. That would be a misnomer. That is a misconception. Otherwise, how does a poor civil servant who has been wrongfully terminated approaches the court, and at the end of it, the court says, oh, you have wrongly terminated his appointment? How does somebody take Dangote to court? Oh, you have done, maybe you have negligent, you have your vehicle as due to negligence caused the death of somebody's relation, and the court is making an award, substantial award, against the ubiquitous, the almighty Dangote. So you get it. You see individuals suing the federal government, and the court will say, no, federal government, you are wrong, pay compensation, do this, do that. So we shouldn't have that impression. Whenever there is any breach of the right of anybody, for those who are blessed or those who are endowed, go out there, look for lawyers according to your means. The important thing is diligence, competence. For those who cannot afford to pay, there are several other options which they could follow. And let me also tell you that even in the scheme of things, the judiciary has deliberately grossly subsidized the cost of filing cases with a view to make the courts and the judicial system accessible to members of the society. And what happens in a civil matter also applies in criminal cases. For those who have criminal cases, they could also be represented by all these various bodies and institutions, and even individuals that we have enumerated.
Okay, there are often calls for constitutional review. If there will be a review to the Nigerian Constitution as it presently is, what would be your suggestion?
My first suggestion will have to do with my own primary constituency, which is the legal profession. And my suggestion is going to be that, number one, that the Constitution be amended such that the number of cases that will end up in the Supreme Court will be greatly reduced. And we could do this using a number of parameters. In the first instance, a case that had an opportunity of 2 appeals should end at whatever level. For example, if a case starts at the magistrate court level or area court level, inferior court anyway, and there is an appeal to the high court in the first instance, there is a further appeal in the second instance to the Court of Appeal. Such matters should end there. Such matters should not get to the Supreme Court. Then in terms of the monetary sums that are involved, we should have a scale such that for claims 150,000, 200,000, 5 million, even 10 million, such matters get into the Supreme Court. You know, you are just clogging that court unnecessarily. So I will recommend amendments in that wise, even in electoral matters, for pre-election matters. Maybe apart from the presidential and governorship district, which ordinarily will get to the Supreme Court anyway, every other pre-election matter should end in the Court of Appeal. If you go to the High Court, you get a judgment for or against. You appeal further to the Court of Appeal. Of course, once the Court of Appeal has made a pronouncement, I think that should be the end of it. After all, even in the substantive election petition for legislative houses matters, you start in the tribunal, you end in the Court of Appeal. Why must pre-election matter be different? You start your pre-election matter, except for the governorship and the presidential. Every other one should end up at the Court of Appeal level. And of course, aside from this, even in respect to some other matters, except cases that have constitutional flavor, we should limit the number of cases that will get to the Supreme Court. We have just one Supreme Court in the country to serve the entire country. And you have maximum of 21 or 22 justices sitting in that court. You can imagine the volume of work going before them. So I will make that recommendation. I will also make a further recommendation that we need to revisit the kind of the federalism that we operate here. The cost of running is too exorbitant, and I think it will appear to be too much given the realities of our economy now. A situation whereby, because somebody is president or is governor, he has unlimited access to state resources. I think it's something that has to be checkmated. We should be able to regulate access to all these things. For example, if you are a governor, you are a president, you should be entitled to certain facilities only if you are performing state functions. And it should be limited to you, your spouse, your children, your friends, your family members. For example, should not have access to the presidential jet or the fleet. They should not have access to the official cars. And if even you as the president or as the governor, if you must use those things for your own personal this thing, you should be charged appropriately. As opposed to the current situation whereby, oh, because I'm president, I'm entitled to just everything, things that I cannot even afford on my own as an individual. Once I'm elected as the governor, then one other thing pertaining to the issue of the legislature is this thing that they call constituency projects. I think we should look seriously into that issue. A situation whereby somebody is the one that is promoting a particular project, is the one that is nominating the contractor, is the one that is performing oversight over it. Where lies the transparency? Where lies the accountability? I also want us to consider that among other things.
Assuming a lawyer is operating with a fake certificate and ascertain the level of a senior advocate before it's been discovered, how do you think this kind of a matter be treated?
Let me tell you that that is not possible in Nigeria. I'm privileged to be a senior advocate of Nigeria. And I know how rigorous the process of the scrutiny, the filtration, but they do series of filtration. The first filter, you submit your papers and everything. Administratively, that is going to be done. They call it first filtration. After that one is the next stage, and everything that you have put forward as your own is scrutinized up to the barest level, such that it is just not possible for such a kind of thing to happen, especially at the level of a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Okay. Recently, over 100 professors were discovered to be fake. How do you think this was possible even in the academic environment?
Well, I have also been opportune to read a disclaimer from the National Nigeria Universities Commission disclaiming that publication. They say it is not. I will be surprised actually, because I believe that say what you may, the educational institutions still have integrity to be able to ascertain who is a professor, who is not a professor. And you know, even before the disclaimer came, I perused that list again and again, and I found that in many instances they will say somebody is a fake professor in one university. You see his name appearing in two other universities. So you know that it's just a kind of a caricature of presentation, which I don't know what purpose anybody want to achieve by it, but it certainly is not good for our image as a nation. Don't forget that these are institutions that train students who are exported outside of the country at times. By the time you try to raise questions like this, you'll be creating problem for the institutions, even for the entire nation. So whoever is behind such a kind of information should please desist. It's not in anybody's interest.
Okay. There's this issue of Cotonou University awarding degrees to as uncovered by an undercover journalist.
Yes.
So what is your view to, because such institution has had their products going to youth corps and entering into the larger society to operate as graduates?
It's really very, very sad. I followed that story and I was greatly saddened. Saddened because I want to imagine what would have happened in the past. I want to imagine the implication of that for every graduate, both the innocent and the guilty one that had passed through that system. I want to imagine what dent and disrepute that must have brought. Well, you see, for me, it's a call for duty on the regulatory agencies. They need to do more. Let me just digress and say this. I'm privileged to be a member of the Council of Legal Education, which is the body that is responsible for legal education in Nigeria. We perform the kind of oversight function on universities, awarding law degree to would-be lawyers, and we also regulate admission of students into the law school. Years back, due to the diligence of that body, we have had cause to delist many of those universities from those that are eligible to bring students to the Nigerian law school, because of a report that we had that things were not being properly done. Not even necessarily in terms of certificate being faked or being forged, but in terms of quality of training that was being offered. So I would just implore the Federal Ministry of Education through appropriate agencies to focus further satellite on not just those institutions but other institutions globally, with a view to ascertain that things are properly done. Because for me, a good number of Nigerians have genuinely graduated from those institutions. They have gone through the process. But revelation has also shown that things are not being properly done there. So they should try to do more. And I think it's doable. Just the way they do with universities in Nigeria. I know that they undertake periodic visitation and accreditation and the rest of it to ensure that things are properly done. So they should extend that to universities outside of Nigeria, especially in Africa. The assumption that in Europe and other places, such things cannot easily happen like it had been shown in our neighboring country here.
All right. For a lawyer, for a young school leaver who wants to become a lawyer like you, what advice do you have for them?
Well, the first advice I will give is for such a person to have a serious consideration before making up his or her mind. The law profession is a very jealous profession. It's a profession that requires investment in every facet. You must be prepared to invest your time. You must be prepared to invest your energy. You must be prepared to invest your attention if you must do well. It is not a profession that allows you to, if you must do well, like I said, to combine too many things. Even from the university level, you know the kind of rigorous training that you are exposed to. And by the time you come into the profession, it is not as if you are coming and things are just, getting cozy for you. It's a kind of profession that you have to labor. You probably serve pupillage. You prepare to work long hours. You prepare to stay in the office for long hours. You should be prepared to traverse the length and breadth of the nation. You should be prepared to do research and continuous research if you must be relevant. Above all, integrity must be your watchword, because as a lawyer, there are rules and regulations to ensure that you are a person of integrity. Otherwise, you have no place coming to the profession. And if you manage to just come in, be sure that you'll be ejected in no time.
Okay, finally, Nigeria is a secular country where religion is not given prominence. How realistic are we that we only, in most societies, we only mention Islam and Christianity, ignoring the traditional religion?
Well, what the law says is that no religion should be recognized as the official state religion. It does not obliterate any religion. Christianity, if you are a Christian, practice it. If you are a Muslim, if you are a traditional distant. I think the issue of the other religion or religions being you use the word obliterated or something, or being relegated, I don't think it is something that will arise at all. If they want prominence to be given to this, it's something that they have to articulate their position, speak out in unison, and convey their distance. I know that it took some energy, some effort before even Islam is accorded recognition, before they start celebrating Hijrah holiday, Maulid Nabi holiday, and people being allowed to observe prayers on Fridays, before universities started giving room for excluding time for prayers for purposes of their examinations and the rest of it. So they also have to come together, if they could, in one voice, and present whatever request that they have, which is going to be looked at and pronounced upon one way or the other. But like I said, it is not going to be a tea party. It's never been a tea party for anyone.
So thank you for taking so much time.
It's my pleasure.